quick, I just want to take you through deadlift progressions for our athletes, but we used to take basically untrained, a beginner, maybe a young kid, 10, 11, 12, comes into the gym, wanting to go over how we take them from being a complete beginner up through the kettlebells into the trap bar and then onto the straight bar, where we ultimately want to get them to as quickly as possible and as safely as possible. I know a lot of parents have concerns about safety, and they're concerned about lifting, and it's a pretty good, it's a concern that's warranted. Again, there's no research out there saying that young kids can't strength train. The whole thing with the growth plates is basically an old wives' tale. You're not going to stunt their growth. They're not going to ruin them. They're not going to not grow over 5'3" because they lifted weights at a young age. It's actually the opposite. They're going to be safer and more effective at playing sports the younger that they get to start strength training. So, but safety is a concern because they can do things that would hurt them. Maybe not for the long term necessarily, but it could hurt them in the short term in terms of doing things that they're not ready to do. So what we do is we use kettlebells to start. So we could start anywhere from a 15 all the way up to a 97 to start out with. And we usually start them pretty light. I mean, typical 12-year-old might start with a 35 or a 44-pound kettlebell. What we're going to do is we're just going to sit them up, have them straddle the kettlebell with a pretty wide stance. We want them to get into their hips here. So we don't want them narrow doing this. We want them hips here, feet wide, hips back, so that their shins are relatively vertical. And then standing up with the kettlebell, coming down under control, placing it down, and then repeating it. Okay, so we could start there. We work up. Here's a 70. When it looks good, we always work up. So if they do a set, it looks good, we work up. Now, our reps on this are going to be a little bit higher, maybe 10, 12 reps, 8 to 12 reps. So we'll keep working up until we get to the 97. Then we go up 2 53s, one in each hand. That's going to be a little bit more difficult because now they have to work the two hands independently. It takes a little bit more upper back strength, not around their backs. So 2 53s, possibly 2 70s, one in each hand. Once they're proficient with that, we go right to the strap bar. The trap bar, so with the kettlebells, we are really looking for form, technique. We want to be able to just master that. We want everything to look really good. When we get to the trap bar now, they should be pretty good at the motion. So we're expecting them to load it a little bit more, and our rep range here might be anywhere between 3 and 8 reps still. We might start at 8 1 week for a couple weeks, then the next week we might go down to 5s, and then when they get pretty good at this, maybe 200, anywhere between 225 for sets of 5, upwards of 3 something. When they're good at that, they're strong, everything looks good, we go to the straight bar. Now with the trap bar, the motion's a little differently. We're going to be a little bit more narrow. I don't love the trap bar for deadlifting, so it's basically, all the trap bar is going to do is bridge the gap between the kettlebells and the straight bar for us. We very rarely do it after that moment, after that period, that transition period there. But what the trap bar is going to do is we're going to be able to load it a little bit more. It's going to allow us to load that movement more. It's going to force them to really learn the abdominal bracing, creating inner abdominal pressure. It's going to force them to really keep a neutral spine, a flat back, and they're going to learn how to actually brace under pressure and move some decent weight. So from there, we're going to go to the straight bar. Okay, so the kettlebells are really just form, learning movements. The trap bar is going to be a little bit more bracing under pressure, under higher loads, and then we get them to the straight bar, which is ultimately where we want them to be. The reason why we like the straight bar more than the trap bar, me personally, is because it's going to be a little bit more posterior chain dominant. Almost all the athletes that we see, they're going to come in, they're going to be strong in their quads, but not necessarily strong in their hamstrings and their back and their glutes. So this is going to force posterior training, where this is going to sit into the quads a little bit more than it will the hamstrings and glutes. So again, this is the difference realistically between training somewhere and training in a high school weight room. Most high school weight rooms are not going to have all the kettlebells or progressions, for that matter, not going to have any progressions. They're just going to have the kids come in, freshmen, grab the bar and lift. I mean, the straight bar is a great movement, but a straight bar deadlift is a great training tool, but the problem is most kids aren't going to be ready for it if they haven't progressed from somewhere. You have to meet them where they're at, progress them, and then when they get to that bar, they're ready to go, and then they can take off from there. If you give kids things that they aren't ready to do, it's not really necessarily the age, it's more just how long they've been training and their skill level. So, you know, some kids might be great athletes, never trained before. You think that they can do something like this, but they have no clue. When they get to it, they're going to be really ugly. And then what happens is they flounder on it. They're going to be wasting months and months, maybe even years, doing something they're not ready to do because they never had the progressions to get there. And they waste years not getting better. So again, the straight bar, I'll demonstrate one, but it's just going to be, we usually start with the sumo stance for most of our guys and girls, and we're just going to get down here and work straight up. And that's it. So again, progressions for the deadlift, keeping the guys safe, making sure that they're constantly getting better as opposed to just being stuck somewhere.